Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I will be reviewing this fountain pen, which is a Lamy Safari special edition in Terra Red. And in this video I will also be showing you how to refill the Lamy Safari with bottled ink, how this pen performs when writing and sketching, as well as a few tips and tricks for drawing loose urban sketches. So the first two Lamy Safari fountain pens were introduced over 40 years ago in the original colors Terra Red and Savannah Green, and they did a relaunch of these original colors in 2021, which was when I bought this pen. So I have the stainless steel medium nib, which is black in color, and they do come in different widths, so you can choose the one that suits you the best. So here you can see there is a window that shows how much ink is left in the cartridge, and you can see that I have used up most of the ink here, but I'm using this Lamy Z28 converter, which means I can refill the ink instead of using a disposable cartridge. It's very handy and it's also great for the environment. As you can see, there isn't much ink in there anymore, but you can still write with it. But when you write fast, you get these broken lines, which actually can look pretty good when you do sketches, but I guess it's not that desirable for when you are writing. So the converter has these notches on the sides that fit right into its casing, and this is also a screw type piston converter, which is kind of like a mini syringe. So you can like suck up all that ink and also expel all the ink. Okay, so I'm getting ink all over my hands already. So if you want to, you can actually use a disposable cartridge, and once the ink is finished, you can throw away the cartridge. But personally, I really like this converter, although it is a little bit messy. As for the casing, it is made from ABS plastic, which is really sturdy, and it doesn't stain when you get ink on it. So I'm using black Noodler's ink, which is a water-based ink made in the USA, and on the label it says that it's bulletproof on cellulose paper, yet washes off plastic with water. So this ink won't stain the plastic casing of the pen, and it's waterproof, so you can use watercolors to paint over it and the ink won't run. So if you're new to fountain pens, do remember that you can only use fountain pen inks with fountain pens. So using the wrong inks, not designed for fountain pens, might clog it up or ruin the pen. So what I just did was I screwed the piston right down to the bottom so that all the air is expelled. And now I'm trying to refill the converter with ink. I say I tried because I actually failed to refill it properly, and so there's a big air bubble right there in the cartridge. So I tried it again and I expelled all the ink and the air from the piston from the cartridge, and then tried refilling it again. So this time I dipped the pen right into that ink, and I didn't worry about like getting ink on the casing. So you really have to sort of cover that hole behind the nib where the ink goes in, so that no air goes into the converter. So this is a really huge bottle of ink, and it's really filled to the very brim. So far, after a year, I've only just used that tiny bit of it. So part of the reason that I wanted to use a fountain pen instead of my usual fine liners was because I liked the idea of being able to use a lot of different colored inks, like, brown, sepia colored, or a blue colored ink with that same pen. But so far I haven't tried to change colors yet, because you have to kind of wash the converter with water and let it air dry every single time you change inks, and that sounds like a very time consuming thing, and I'd rather get a few fountain pens and have a designated color for each one, which sounds like a costly venture, I know. So I am relatively new to fountain pens, so if any of you have any suggestions for other types of fountain pens that you like, or recommendations for changing inks, do let me know down in the comments below. So after refilling, the flow of ink is definitely smoother, and when you write slowly, more ink flows out and you get thicker lines, and when you go fast or when you're scribbling, less ink flows out, so you get thinner lines. But even when you go fast now, it's still a very smooth line. Of course, this is just normal printing paper and it's very smooth, and also you can see the ink kind of bleeding a little, especially when you apply pressure. So when you apply more pressure, the lines get thicker and more ink flows out, so you can get some variation using this nib. However, this nib is not really very flexible, so the variation in line is quite limited. So let's try using this Daler Rowney sketchbook with better paper that won't have as much bleeding. I did a previous video using Leonard dip pen nibs, and comparatively this nib is much less scratchy, much smoother, and although it is not as flexible as the dip pen nibs, so it's not as suitable for calligraphy. So mainly I bought this pen for sketching and not for writing, and so the strokes are really smooth, and yet I can do these really angular shapes, and it feels very comfortable in my hand. And the grip area is a sort of triangular shape, so you can grip it really comfortably, and the nib will line up perfectly each time. This is also a great pen for sketching quick sketches because it's so smooth and it really is very comfortable to use. So I just wanted to show you the box that the pen came in, because I kept the box even though I have unboxed it over a year ago. So why? Because there is actually a 2-year warranty card in there, and it looks really pretty. So yeah, I am a hoarder. I can't throw away things. So I'm gonna show you this fake unboxing, because yeah, I already refilled the ink and I put it back in the box. Right, so this is the warranty card from Lamy, which is made in Germany, and it's pretty cool that a pen like this has a longer warranty than an iPhone, right? At least the last I heard, here we only get like a year warranty for an iPhone. And I bought this pen at a local stationery store called Stickerific, and they gave me really great recommendations. So yeah, that was really cool. So I'm going to do an inking of this old house in a little village in Penang using this pen, so I can show you how it performs whilst I'm sketching and give you a few tips and tricks. So for this sketch, I planned on being slightly more neat with my pen lines, so I decided to sketch with a pencil first, just to get the basic shapes in. And so this pencil sketch took about like 5 minutes. So basically, I'm just following the reference photo and sketching the outlines of the main house first, and then adding the signboards, plants, pots, and just indicating where everything is. For this piece, I'm using Arches watercolor paper, which is 100% cotton, and it's cold press, so it's quite rough, and you will get to see how different the pen lines look on this paper compared to the previous smoother paper that I used. So I like the cover of the pen on the back because the weight distribution feels just nice for me. Yeah. So let's get started on inking. So I started with a very long line on the roof, and I don't usually draw such a long line in one go. So I usually break it up into a few strokes, and sometimes I like to leave a small gap in between the strokes. So it gives it this character, which is hard to explain. Sometimes I intentionally make the lines kind of wobbly, which adds to the character of the sketch as a whole. So when I was younger, I would stress about having the straightest lines. And then gradually I observed all these masters with all their wobbly lines, and their sketches looked so amazing and so lively. So now I do, that little round shape. I do them like however I like them to be. It should be round, but I'm not making it round. But the viewer will kind of, I don't know, accept it, and it becomes part of the character of your drawing. I like artists and illustrators who have really expressive line work. For example, like on Instagram, the house sketcher, who is his name is Albert Kiefer, and also I like Alex Hilkerts, who draws these really nice, very beautiful Paris sketches in ink and watercolor, and I have watched his Domestica lessons, and I've learned a lot from that. So you can, maybe I'll do a review on that one, in the future, because I really enjoyed that lesson and I learned a lot from it, like how to be expressive and how to, kind of not be too accurate with your drawings and still making the paintings look beautiful. Yeah. I really like how this pen kind of goes so smoothly, so you can be really spontaneous with your lines, and I really like doing like spontaneous and kind of angular shaped plants, which makes this drawing look so much more spontaneous because of those like kind of random everywhere lines, which look crazy, but actually when you look at it from afar, it's like expressive, and people would consider that as expressive and not messy. I don't know, there is a fine line between being messy and being expressive, so you really gotta practice and try what works best for you. So on the surface, you may think that anyone can draw those scribbly lines, such as people like Quentin Blake, who illustrated Roald Dahl's books. He has these really expressive line work, and it looks really simple, but actually it's not, because it's really hard to have an expressive art, something that tells a story and that makes people feel something when they look at your art. Using this pen, you can create those variations in line thickness, although subtle, as well as having some darker areas whereby I put more pressure on the pen, or I draw more slowly, or I layer on the ink a few times. One thing that I learned from Alex Hilkerts is also to draw less detail for things that are less important or in the background. And I do get caught up in adding too many details sometimes. And I'm still far from perfect, but I'm learning to see the big picture and to not focus too much on getting details right, but to capture the mood of the place instead of being crazy stressed out about details. Yeah. One thing about Noodler's ink and this pen, even if I don't use the pen for like a couple of months, because I use fine liners too, it never clogs up or gives me any problems. So all in all, the Lamy Safari is one of the best-selling writing instruments in the world in its category. So that does explain why they have been selling the same one for 40 years. So I hope you found this video helpful to you. Do subscribe for more videos. Next, I will be painting this one over with watercolor, so stay tuned for that. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.